Hey guys, Blockchain Patriot coming at you with another quick video. Hope you're all doing well today. I just wanted to talk quickly about the changes in society and just kind of compare it to what we're seeing with the financial shift in the markets, all the tokens that are going to be used from a utility perspective. In my last video, I talked a little bit about, different things that's changing in the use cases of certain things, such as going from traditional mail to email and how disruptive that was and how much of a change it made in society today. But I found this video. This is an older video that was done based on how couples met from 1930 to 2024. It's a quick video. It's only 1 minute. I'm going to just play it here and kind of let it go. But take note at online, where people met online. You'll notice that for many, many years, of course, online and internet didn't exist. But I want to show you just how fast things change and how quickly adoption grows. And I want you to equate that to the digital marketplace that we're seeing unravel right now before our eyes. There's so many things happening behind the scenes that many people aren't paying attention to. They really just aren't aware. They maybe just don't know where to look. And that's fair. But the reality is now you can see in the early 2000s, online became a predominant way to meet. And if you think about it, okay, meeting your significant other is a very important thing in life. I mean, this is future people who are going to have families, right? And so when they meet, how they meet definitely is important. But if you look at the difference from 2024 back to when I originally started the video there, 60% of couples are meeting online now. That's absolutely crazy. Now, why am I showing this video? Well, I think it's a really good place to start when you're thinking about how change happens and how, things evolve and how quickly they evolve. If we actually go back and we just look at really I think it was about like 90, 91, 92 is really when the internet started to kind of take shape. But then you kind of wind it forward here and you go even to 2005 and you can already see that online's jumped up to 13% by 2006. So it really didn't take long and things rapidly evolved. So what I'm going to show you here, and this is, just so I don't take credit from anybody, this is the actual place that I found this. I don't know who made this video. It does say here where the source was. So for those of you who kind of wonder where that came from, this is just something that I found. I was doing some stuff, but I just want to show you guys a couple of things. So when you think about the digital space, and actually when I talk to people today, I ask them, do you know what crypto is? Do you know what blockchain technology is? Do you know where the financial systems are heading? And most of the time, people stare back with this blank look on their face. And, if we ask them about what tokens they know about, the number one is Bitcoin. That's what we hear everybody say. And if you look at Bitcoin, I just want to show you, okay? Bitcoin back in 2013 was worth $112. And back then, okay, it had been out. And if we scroll down here, we can see, when it came out, all right, it was originally, right, introduced in 2008. All right. So if we look at 2013, right, 2013 minus 2008, that gives us 5 years. So that's been out for 5 years, and it went from zero or probably under zero cost per token to $125. All right. And that's a fairly significant jump. But did anybody ever believe here that it would ever grow to, say, 78,000. Now, these are Canadian dollars. So for those of you watching from the United States, obviously, US dollars are different. There is a certain big change when it comes to conversion, but still, nonetheless, this is still the charts. And then, it took some dips and, it went up again. And did anybody ever think it was going to peak at $157,000? The answer is back here, no, they didn't. In fact, most people back here were shocked it even made it to $100. All right. Never mind, grew to $157,000. So you really have to keep this in mind. Okay. So I want to use another example. if you thought about a high-speed router, okay? So if we were to look up high-speed routers and, they were 1 gig of service, so they could stream 1 gig of service, and that's astronomical. Can you imagine, all right, that technology existing back in 2013, where you could stream at that level? Now, you actually couldn't stream at that level back in 2013. High speed was around, but it certainly wasn't what it is today. And so when you think about that for a second, imagine that product exists. How much use case could it have being so early? The answer, there's no use case for it, because people didn't have that type of download needs at that time, right? The internet hadn't evolved. And you couldn't, if you don't believe it was at 2013, wind it back and say 2007, okay? The reality, my point is that when you look at a product that gets launched today, okay, it's launched today based on its needs today. So what happens to the products that are launched early? So everybody back in the day didn't believe the electric car would ever take off. And GM was one of the first companies in the world to create the original electric car. And it never took off, but the technology existed. So now it had to wait for the marketplace to catch up to the demand. And now you've got Tesla being probably the number one when it comes to electric cars in the world right now. And so many other companies are catching up now. But my point of all of this is when you think about this transformation that we're seeing unfold, okay, I'm going to pick another token. Let me just pick one other token here. This seems to be a really popular token with everybody, all right? Some like it, some don't like it, some understand it, some don't understand it. But I'm just going to use this, okay? I'm just going to use this, all right? Back here, all right, it was at 0. 2013, it was worth nothing, literally 0. Under a penny you could pick this up for, okay? All the people back here did not believe that XRP could ever become even 50 cents, okay? But then it literally sat at 27 cents for a while. It jumped up. It peaked at $4.82. All right. And then, of course, a lot of people understand that the SEC case came in and it dropped down, and then it kind of stayed dormant for a long time. Now, what we're looking at when we see these charts, all right, and I don't like charts because truthfully, when it comes to utility tokens, it really doesn't give us a great understanding as to what these tokens were designed for, all right? No different than that modem I just talked about. That modem was designed for high-speed data transfer, okay? Being able to utilize your internet and stream and, game and do everything that we do today on our computers, our phones, our laptops, whatever device you have. And that's what that modem does. It allows us to have those access speeds and transfer of data speeds. Now think about that when it comes to money. From here to here, has XRP been actually utilized at scale yet? The answer, no, not even close. Global adoption hasn't even started to take place. So when you think about the prices of some of these tokens, okay, and you think about, I'm using utility tokens and ISO 20022 compliant tokens for the purpose of this video, but there's so many different ones. And people who think that, these things are never going to reach high numbers, I don't think they fully grasp the scale of what this marketplace is actually going to look like. And you can look at these same things, right? All these charts show is technically retail, okay? These are retail people like you or I who buy these tokens, hold them with the hope that they grow. This is not being utilized yet. This is like a train sitting on the tracks with 10,000 seats and not one body sitting in those seats yet. And yet the price is still moving up and down a little bit due to speculation, okay? So keep it in mind when you're looking at this stuff. When I talk about doing your own research, I'm talking about really researching and using your mind to think bigger than just what somebody tells you a token may or may not be worth. Now, I'm not saying that these tokens are going to for sure all take off, but I can tell you that there's a very good handful of them that will be utilized together to fix the world's biggest challenge, which is liquidity, okay? All of the money in the world needs to be moved. So if you look at this and you understand how big this is going to be, it's inevitable that these things are going to grow. And again, I'm just using a few different ones. We can type in anything in here and anybody can do this for themselves and just kind of look. But it's important not just to look at where we are today, but it's also important to look at kind of where things have come. And you can look at different types of assets, okay? These assets that we're talking about here, these tokens, they are going to be used in the future financial system for various different operational needs. And some of them have to actually complement each other. And when you look into these and how they're going to work, them complementing each other is what's going to give them value. Think about your computer right now. Most people in the world have either a Mac computer or a Microsoft computer. That's it. That's the most two used operating systems in the world. So, but if you think about your operating system right now and you have a Mac, there's many other applications that run on that operating system. So think just the same, okay? You're going to have operating systems that will function, all right, as a overledger, and I'm just using this one as example, an overledger, right? But all other blockchains may have to run. So think of this as almost like an operating system. Again, there's a few other ones that you can compare. I'm not saying in this video that this is the one. That's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to help you understand there is a difference about what we're seeing with the financial shifts of today and what we compare to other types of products of the past, such as stocks and bonds and different things like this. Okay. For those of you who don't understand the market cap, there's so many different things you can check out and see that will really help you understand that. And I'm actually going to go through market caps and where we can reach, certain numbers, because a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand the actual, these market caps and where they could come from. Most people are looking at $2.5 trillion market cap and saying, well, there's no way that could ever be 3 trillion or 4 trillion or 5 trillion, or they're talking about tokens like XRP and saying there's no way it reaches 1 trillion market cap. Well, the reality is there's so many different ways to look at this, because there's so many different opportunities to utilize some of these tokens to solve world problems. Imagine when everything in the world is tokenized. Well, that means every asset has value, including the debt that's attached to that value. Okay. So if you buy a car today and you spend $100,000 in that car, you may drive down that road and it's worth $100,000 for the first few weeks. But then after that, it slowly depreciates, but it has a debt attached to it, but it's also got a market value attached to it. So imagine all of that money being tokenized on some of these tokens out there, right? There's so many different ones. Of course, once regulatory clarity comes in, I believe a majority of these, look at, there's 18,350 different types of tokens. Okay. So you can imagine how big this space is, but I believe that this will probably drop down to more like, maybe 1,500 or so. I don't believe it'll be in the thousands like this. It'll drop down to the usable tokens. I think a lot of the fraud that goes on with meme coins will be gone, and the sentiment will become more, interest will come into play. All right. But I know I'm kind of rambling on a little bit here, but people have to understand that these market caps today mean nothing. None of these tokens are actually being utilized in the scale that they were designed. So if we'll just use Cardano, okay? If Cardano, okay, or ADA, right? If it were, utilized for what it was designed, there's no way, okay, that you would have $1.08 as your price point. It's not possible. It has to go up in order to do what it was designed to do. Or things like XRP or XLM or many others, right? There's so many different ones. There's Stellar, right? There's HBAR. There's a lot of different ones that can be utilized to do things that they were designed to do. So when I go back to that modem, just because at the time, if that modem were designed 15 years ago and it transferred 1 gig of value, right? It's not worth as much then because it's not able to do what it needs to do yet. but that doesn't make it not valuable. It makes it early, not unvaluable. So I want to conclude this video and just let you guys know, my videos are really designed to help people just think a bit differently. I do a lot of coaching. My goal is to change people's thought process. Unfortunately, in the day of the internet, and we talk about this, is it's so easy to just get caught up in maybe somebody's sentiment towards something or their negativity towards something. I really urge people to do your own research. And doing your own research doesn't just mean picking these tokens and looking at white paper. It actually means looking at things and starting to connect the dots, looking at the marketplace, looking at the potential of where this thing is heading. All right. And when you start to do that, you're going to open your mind. And I think you'll be able to make some moves that put you and your family in a better position. Again, I want what's best for people and humanity. I believe that everybody deserves a chance to live the life they desire. And I feel like people out there are sometimes just talking about price action, and they're just talking about the specific tokens, or they have rivalries with other tokens. I don't think that's the right thinking. I think what we have to realize is that there's room for more than one player. There's room for a lot of players in this. And if you see what's coming, you can jump in when it works for you and take advantage of the lift, because when things go up, they usually all go up. And when adoption starts to take place, and it will, I believe we're going to see a lot of that over the next coming years. Even some of the stuff's going to start moving in the next few months. But the reality is, if you're not part of it, if you're not exposed to the marketplace, then there's no way for you to take advantage of the lift. So do what's best for you always, but make sure you do your own research. Again, thanks for watching the video. If you watched till the end, just put a comment. Tell us what you think. My goal is to continue to do these videos and make people think a bit differently and give people something of value to think about, and maybe just a different perspective on things. I know there's many great channels out there. I understand that, and there's not time for everybody in a day, but we do appreciate you taking the time. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next one.